Hey everyone, here's a quick video on how to factor quadratic trinomials when a does not equal 1, meaning our leading coefficient is actually going to be some kind of integer, and then how to factor out a GCF first. A couple of examples. Excuse me. So, our first example, 3x squared plus 8x plus 4. Notice our lead coefficient 3, not 1. So, in order to do this, as mentioned, we have to first multiply our a value by our c value. All right, we're going to do 3 times 4, and that gives me 12. Now, similar to how we factored previously, I want to find what factors of 12 add to 8. So what factors of this new AC instead of just C? What factors of A times C, which is 12, add up to 8? So if I go through my factors of 12, I have 12 and 1. Nope, that's no good. 3 and 4. Nope, that's no good. That gives me 7. That's close. What's left? 6 and 2. Aha, so 6 and 2. So this is not going to be what my factors will be, but this is going to help me get there. So what I now do with this 6 and 2 is I split this 8x into 6x plus 2x. That's still equal to 8x, but this is now I have to factor by a little bit of grouping, and we're going to learn more about this in a future lesson. But I first am going to split my 8x, whatever my b value is, into the two factors that I got from multiplying a and c that add to b. I know that seems like a lot. Let me kind of box this out of the way here. So now my original quadratic trinomial, 3x squared plus 8x plus 4, I now have it as 3x squared plus 6x plus 2x, which is the same as 8x, plus 4. What I'm now going to do is I'm going to split it in half, okay? And I'm just going to focus on the first half. I want to figure out what has, what's the GCF, or what can I factor out of just the first two terms here? 3x squared plus 6x. I could factor out a 3. I could also factor out an x. So that's what I want to factor out of the first piece, because that is the largest value that is in both of my first two terms. Once I factor out that 3x, my first term here is going to just be x, because 3x times x gives me 3x squared. And then this will be plus 2. Now I'm going to go and I'm going to do the same thing to the second half. All right, my 2x plus 4. I want to factor something out. What's the GCF of 2x and 4? That's just going to be 2. And now I'm going to factor that out. And when I do that, when I factor out a 2 from 2x, that leaves me with x. And I factor out a 2 out from 2, that leaves me with 2. All right, so now this is my next step. This is where I am now. I have my 3x, and then x plus 2, and then I have a 2 and an x plus 2. Now this is actually going to be a positive 2. Now note, when I have factored out 3x, I'm left with x plus 2. When I factor out a 2, I'm left with an x plus 2. It should always be the same thing. So what I now do, that x plus 2 becomes one of my binomials, x plus 2. The second binomial will be made up of what I factored out first, the 3x, and what I factored out first in the second grouping, positive 2. And this 3x plus 2, x plus 2, is the factored form of 3x squared plus 8x plus 4. All right? There's definitely more steps to this. But again, taking it slow, every time looking at it, adjusting, figuring out where to start is going to be key. All right, so now let's go to our next example. Oh no, it didn't erase. I thought it would erase. I'll erase it all. Oh, I can just clear the screen. Silly Stanwood. Okay, so now I want to factor 5x squared plus 18x plus 9. What I'm going to do first is find AC. My A times my C. That's what I'm going to do first. And that equals 45. So now I want to figure out what factors of 45 add to 18. So what times what adds to 18? So my first instinct is, of course, like 9 and 5, because that's my go-to for 45. Add them together, that's 14. So that doesn't work. Thinking a little bit more, I can get, what about 15 and 3? That sounds like it's a winner. So there I have 15 times 3 gives me 45. 15 plus 3 gives me 18. Now, what I'm going to do with that, recall, is I'm going to split my middle term. I'm going to split 18x into 15x plus 3x. Now, every year the question arises, does it matter if I put 15x first or 3x first? It actually doesn't matter. It will not matter. You will still be able to factor it out the same way. And now I'm going to drop down my first term, 5x squared. This is a positive 15. Drop down my constant, my c, plus 9. I'm now going to split it in half. I'm going to look at my first two terms, 5x squared plus 15x. What is the GCF? What can I factor out of that? Well, they looks like they both have a 5 and they both have an x, so I'm going to factor out 5x. What does that leave me with? That'll leave me with x plus 3. Now I'm going to go and do the second one. I have a 3x plus 9. Everything's positive. What do I get? What can I factor out here? I can factor out a 3. That leaves me with x plus 3, because 3 times x gives me 3x, 3 times 3 gives me my 9. And now what I have, since both of these are the same as they should be, this will give me one of my, that's a funky x. That'll give me one of my binomials, x plus 3, and my other binomial will be 5x. And then since that's a positive 3 plus 3. All right. And that's how we can factor with the lead coefficient of A. So let's go on here. Let me clear the screen again. Clicks. Where's my... why can't I find the right thing here? There we go. Sorry about that. All right. Clear the screen. So now I want to find the factor version of this. But I'm going to tell you, from this moment on, always look for a GCF first. The other ones did not have a GCF. Let's find a GCF first before we even start grouping or factoring or anything. So I want to scan here, here, and here. Is there a GCF that I can pull out first? Well, if I notice, the first thing I notice is that they all have at least one y in there. So I can factor out a y. I also notice that 12 and 15 and 6, they all have a common factor of 3. So I can factor out 3y first. And in doing that, this would leave me with 4y squared minus 5y plus 2. Now, this is step 1, factoring out GCF. That's always going to be your first step from here on out. Now I have to kind of reevaluate. I want to factor this piece now. So since I have a leading coefficient other than 1, I'm going to find my AC, my lead coefficient times my constant, and that's just going to give me 8. I want to know what two factors of 8 add to get negative 5. Well, since they're both going to be negative, because the C is positive and A is negative, are there two numbers that multiply together to get 8 that add to -5. Well, I could do -8 and -1. That's no good. -4, -2. That's no good. Any other factors? No, there's not. So this is actually the full factored form right here. And again, that's just some more examples. Maybe help if you did not get something. Hope that helps. As always, please do reach out with any questions.